I'm Michael Jacobson. Welcome to today's episode of The Business of Creativity. Today we interview Bonnie Lythgoe. Bonnie was a founding producer and judge on American Idol and on So You Think You Can Dance, both in the US and in Australia. She's also a prolific entertainment producer and has a pantomime company producing large-scale shows in the US, England and Australia. She's a celebrity in Australia and hosts television shows and has managed to merge both celebrity, media appearances and the business side of creativity. Let's see what Bonnie Lythgoe has to say about the business of creativity. Bonnie Lythgoe, welcome to the Business of Creativity.
Thank you.
You've been a performer and a producer for basically your entire life.
Yeah.
What is it that you love about the entertainment business?
I think being able to be yourself, I think starting point is you and then developing you. It's the most wonderful world to be in. There are lots of ups and downs, of course, but when you actually put two things together, you get the script, you get the players, you put it out there, and then you see what you actually accomplish. And especially when you're in the theatre, when you've got people there, the audience there, they're laughing, they're clapping, you sit back and you think, that's being creative.
You got a production company now as well that's producing shows in Australia and the US. What was your vision when you set that company up? Did you have a particular vision about what you wanted to achieve, where you wanted to take it, what you wanted to do artistically?
Well, first of all, I wanted it to be successful, and that's the hardest part, making something really successful, because you've got to get the right people behind it, you've got to get the right cast members. So I think I wanted to achieve something fantastic for families, because you get so many TV shows where, for instance, take X Factor, take Australian Idol, take American Idol, UK Idol, whatever that is, you get families that look at the show together. And what I was finding when I observed various theatres, where you weren't able to take a family from 3 to 103 to the theatre, where they could scream, where they could shout, where they could be part of that play or musical. So I wanted to get to that point where I had everything in line. I had my family, I had my creative team, and all of those things. So I guess what I really wanted to do was to get families to go to theatre, but not families, not from 20 years old or 25, but from young, 3, 4, 5, when I first went there. In fact, suddenly I was creative at 3 or 4 years old.
It's interesting because what you've done with that is something quite extraordinary, because in the UK, where pantomimes particularly have been part of the culture for decades,
yes,
you've introduced that paradigm to Australia and to the US.
Yes,
which is not one that people really had, but it's a family event, isn't it? It
is a family event, and to be honest, I was really scared because I had to really make it work. And whenever you start on a new project, it doesn't always work the first time. It's like me, a dancer. People think you get a job and it's all fantastic, but you go back. If you think of like a chorus line, you're a dancer, you get turned down, turned down, turned down, and you've maybe actually not have any money for ages and ages. So actually coming up with a project like Panto in America, that's very tricky. They've never done it before, they don't understand it. How can you make that work? And I guess the answer is adapting the script to an American audience. England, you've got Panto all the time, and people understand it, but they don't understand it in America, and they don't really understand it in Australia. So how do you get that happening in these countries? And I guess it's jolly hard work, the truth is. You've got to do a lot of research, you've got to do a lot of production, you've got to get the right team behind you and actually change scripts. You've got to listen to the American audience and say, what will they laugh at? What won't they laugh at? What don't they understand? What will they understand? In Australia, it's not quite as bad as that, because I think there's an awful lot of English people in Australia, so they kind of get Panto. But on the other hand, I've got to bring that up to date, because Panto, for instance, in Australia is a bit amateur, local Panto. How can I get families to come to professional Panto? Because the word Panto can put people off. So do you say musical Panto? Do you say musical? You can't, because you want to bring in comedy. You want to bring in audience participation. You want to bring all those elements into this family production. So I've got to say, honestly, Michael, that it's very nerve-wracking, because I didn't know if it would work. I didn't know if we'd have anybody going to the theatre. So you've got to be very careful and very, very sure that with the right people, the right script and the right comedy, that you will be able to turn things around and actually not necessarily make it a profit, but actually bring your creativity to the stage, to the theatre, to the TV even.
What you've just described there is very entrepreneurial, actually, because what you've effectively done is you've had this somewhat irrational belief, like all entrepreneurs, that you can go in and make something work, and have then backed that up with reality. But what was it? I mean, you on one hand, you say you didn't know, which is once again typical with entrepreneurs. None of us know if something's going to work. But on the other hand, in your gut feel, something tells you to do it anyway. What made you do it anyway and think that you can do this?
I think I wanted to do it anyway because my love for theatre. When I grew up, my parents took me to the theatre when I was 3 years old, and I think that passion and the fact that I'm not going to fail in the end, I'm going to win in the end, is my drive, because I love it so much. And I also think that if you have it in your heart, that's the moment when you know you're going to make it work. And it is scary, but I just have this belief. I trust myself, and I trust that I will be able to make families come and love what they see. I suppose it's taken a terrible risk, especially in Australia and America, because it could just turn absolutely the wrong way. But I don't know. I'm somebody that believes that things can happen if you really work hard. It's such hard work. I mean, it doesn't just start with everybody coming to the theatre. I have to go around and look at costumes, look at sets, and then you think, will that work? Will the sets from the UK come into Australia? What will people think about that? Will that be okay? They're costly, but is that the right way? So I also think you have to put in a little bit of luxury, a little bit of difference there.
So you're producing and directing many of the shows that you're involved in, or all of the shows that you're involved in. What does a producer do? Because this is something that's not really often understood. What is the job?
A producer actually has a lot of different jobs, and it does vary from television to film to theatre. For me, a producer is looking at the script. It's looking at what money have we got to spend on these shows. That's really important. And then you're having to look at the cast. Can we afford to do it? A director doesn't get involved in the finance of things. They direct. They're kind of the people on stage. A producer is doing a lot with the behind the scenes situations, looking at different theatres. Can we afford to go in these theatres? Yes, we can. Where can we get the sets from? Should we bring them over from the UK? Should we use them in America? Would they be made in America? So we have to look at all of those things. It's much more, I suppose, technical, and it's very different. I don't think as a producer you necessarily have to be the creative on stage. You have to be the creative behind the scenes, and that is what, but I have to do both of those. But I've actually got a good team with me, so we sit down and we work different things out. I guess the main thing is the money. Can we afford to do that? What if we book this star? Can we do that? And also the sets, as I said to you before, we have to ship everything over. Can we do that? What about the lighting director? Can we afford to bring somebody over? Because we bring kind of like 5 British people over to Australia, and we do 3, I think, 3 or 4 in America.
For the creative team.
For the creative team. So the producers will sit round and talk things through all the time. It's much more, it's kind of creative, but in a different way creative. It's really behind the scenes and before the director gets involved in it. And in fact, a director, although they're running the show and being creative with the actors, the producer could come in and say, I'm not sure if I like that scene. Maybe look at that scene as a director and maybe move things. So they have quite a lot of say, actually, but at the same time, mainly they're doing all the hard graft before the director comes in, to be honest.
So I mean, it's almost like entrepreneurially creative, isn't it? Because you're mixing the creativity with the business, and you're putting all the pieces together. And instead of building a business, you're building a show and a business.
And you know, I never thought I could do that, can I say? Because as a producer, I don't have that mind. I don't have that mind to really work out what we can afford. What about the hotel expenses? will we be able to bring in people from, say, Brisbane to Sydney, from America? Can we do the rehearsals? It's all rehearsals and all of those kind of things. And my brain just doesn't work like that way. You give me a lot of actors and put them on the stage and I'll make the show work. But actually, I had to learn a lot about being a producer and actually step back, if you like, because sometimes I'd look at it and think, oh yeah, we can do that, we can do that. We'll put them in a 5-star hotel. But as a producer, you go, now hang on a minute.
You don't want to go broke.
Yeah, exactly. So you could probably end up putting them in a 4-star hotel, but be able to pay them that amount of money. It's looking at all the wages as well. It's doing all of that. Contracts. That's another thing producers do. That I just go, I don't really know about that. You give me something that's people in front of me, but being a producer, you're looking at a lot of written work, a lot of paperwork. Just music, for instance, producers have to get all the music clearance, so they have to go to somewhere like APRA in Australia, put all the music in, and then get it cleared. Whereas a director will come in and just direct it. It's not just, but will direct. But all those horrible things you have to do beforehand are done.
So you really then, as a producer, you get involved from the beginning, from the script.
Yes.
So effectively, you're looking at the script or looking at a show or buying the rights to a show, and then effectively doing whatever it takes to take that from the script or the rights to something which is living and breathing on the stage.
Yeah. Oh gosh, now you told me that. Yes, I do. Yes.
So what's the role of gut feel then, in terms of, obviously you got spreadsheets and you've got a business partner who's pumping out a lot of this financial stuff, but what's the role of gut feel in just saying, yeah, that feels like a good show, that could work?
It is a gut feeling, you know. It is looking at it, reading the script and visualising the people, visualising the cast. And is it a good story? There's no point in taking on something that isn't a good story. Will people like it? You know, you see films sometimes and you think, that would make a really good stage production, but is it right? Can you make it into a stage production? I mean, I often see things that I see and I think, wow, I'd like to put that on stage. In fact, funnily enough, years ago, when Mary Poppins, the film, was on, I wanted to do that into a stage production. And I'm talking about early 70s. And then I kept talking to various people saying, I'd really like to make this into a musical. Of course, then I had no knowledge, not enough knowledge to even be able to pursue that situation. Yes. And then, of course, it was made. So I suppose I look at various films and I go to the theatre a lot and see what works. Whatever age, you never stop learning. I want to learn everything about everything. And I make mistakes, oh golly, I make loads of mistakes. But by mistakes, the next time I won't make a mistake, think, oh, I've got that. So I think that's important as well.
And clearly you know your business, you know what you're doing, you're following your purpose.
And I think that's what you do. I think if you're going to be a producer, if you're going to be a director, and if you're going to take a chance in life, you have to follow your, I wouldn't actually say your dream, because a dream is not actually catching it, and I want to catch it and make it reality. So I suppose it's my determination. I have that determination to work all hours. If I have to do 3 days and no sleep, I'll work 3 days and no sleep. If the sets are arriving and they're not fitting, we're going to make them fit. So I am 100% there. You know, it's my company and I want to make it the most successful company with the families, not money. I want to make it rewarding to me, rewarding to people, rewarding to families. And I see people get awards for various things, and I think, I'd like to get an award for making families love coming to the theatre, love seeing shows. That's what I'd like.
So that's your purpose then?
That must be my purpose. Yeah, now you're talking to me about it. That is my purpose, because I love making people happy. And I often go to the bathroom in the interval and I listen just to see what people are saying and think, oh, okay, that's really good. And afterwards I'll try and mingle and just talk to people. I'm not afraid of criticism either. And I think that's something that's really important. You should never be afraid of people saying, well, I wouldn't do that way, or I didn't really like that song, or I'm not sure about that actor. I will take everything on board, because if somebody's saying that to me, then that means that they're thinking that. So I will run that past myself and think, I wonder if I've got that right. Or if somebody says, that scene doesn't really quite work, and I think, no, it's been in my feet, I'm feeling the same. So if that's what I'm feeling, it's wrong. So I think that is my purpose in life too. But I also think that never be afraid of making mistakes. If you really believe that this is going to work, you go for it and put everything you've possibly got into it, because if you believe, you usually succeed.
So how important is the role of money? Because most entrepreneurs will say that money is secondary and they're pursuing their passion and the business and the product, whereas a lot of people find that hard to believe. But is that something that you find is true for yourself?
Without question. It's more important for me to be successful but not necessarily making a profit. But I do have to say there does come a time when you actually say, now I need to make a profit, because it's really expensive.
Yeah, you don't want to lose money.
You don't want to lose money. And I guess when you're doing something like a Panto, when you're bringing something new to families, the likelihood is it takes 3 years. It did in Sydney when we were coming here. It was 3 years before we started to break even and making a bit of profit. That's normal even in the UK, if it takes 2 or 3 years with any production really to make money. So it is secondary to me. But you can only go so far. So, for instance, Melbourne, we're still nurturing it, still creating it. We're in our 2nd season, and I, at this moment, don't really know how well we've done. If I find that we're falling under, then I will probably not want to go back to Melbourne, because we have success in Brisbane. So I'm spreading it out, but I don't want to go somewhere where it really isn't going to work. But I have to give it those 3 years and see how it turns around.
And you've got to listen to the market as well and see what it's saying to you.
Yes, you've got to listen to the market, and the people that we've just been to in Melbourne, they just the director there just loves us and wants us back, and we're filling the people, they're filling the theatre there, but at the same time we want them to fill it all the time, not just like for a week or 2 weeks. I'd like to be there for say 3 or 4 weeks. That we haven't got to that stage yet where you can actually say, okay, we can run Melbourne for 6 weeks, we can run Sydney for 6 weeks, and then the other thing is choosing the right time. Is it the right time to bring a Panto around Christmas here? No, not really, because it's their summer and everybody's on the beach. So that's definitely not the right time. Is it right in the winter in Australia? Probably is the right time. So it's even those kind of things you've got to look at as well. If you bring it in at the right time, are people on holiday or are they wanting to come to see the show? It's so much. And when you see those smiling faces, you just want to carry on. It's like Melbourne, I want it to be successful. But at the same time, you've got to have the money to be able to carry on to make it successful. It's tough, Michael.
It's a balance, but you're achieving your fulfillment, if I'm right, through delivering on the purpose and seeing people's happiness and so on. And then the money is almost the external validation.
Yes, it is. And I think also, at the end of the show, when people come up to you and say, this is the best thing we've seen, we love it, we're already booking, because we bring a little thing in where we always bring, like next year we're going to do Jack and the Beanstalk, so we get Jack on and he's searching for the giant, and then the fairy says, not this year, it's next year. So we kind of bring that in, and just to remind people that we're going to do another show next year. So I think that's also, keep reminding people that they're going to come back, they should be coming to see these shows, and constantly have the data going, and constantly do emails and Instagram and all of those things that you now need to do in your life. Yes. So that's also important as well.
And you have another side to your life. You're an executive producer on American Idol in the first couple of series. You were a producer and a judge on So You Think You Can Dance in the US, and a judge here in Australia. You're doing loads of media appearances, hosting TV shows here in Australia. So you've almost got this performance side of your life as well as being a business owner.
That's also quite tough, because I often do work for Studio 10, or I work for Channel 9, and yeah, I forget that, you see, and I'm kind of doubling up all the time. So if I'm in the theatre and I'm making notes and looking at things, and then I go in the interval, I want to go backstage, or at the end of the show I want to go backstage and give out some notes, I'm stopped by all these people saying, Bonnie, can we have a photo? Because they know me. And I think that's a good thing here in Australia, because people see my Bonnie Lythgoe productions and they think, oh, Bonnie's in it, Bonnie's doing the show. And I've now got a good reputation, not just as being a judge on So You Think You Can Dance. Oh, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here as well for my, no, I actually quite enjoyed it. I'm about to say for my sins, but actually it was quite enjoyable, I think. But because of that, I've got, people know me. So in many ways, I think that's a help to me here in Australia, because people want to come and say hello to me, and I'm always in the lighting area. I go to nearly every show, and that's another thing that's really important, because a usual director, once they've done the show, they then leave and go on to another production. But because I'm also producer and director, this is my baby out there. So I need to make sure that everybody's there, everybody's comfortable, that the lighting's right, the sound is okay. So I go to nearly every show and keep everybody on their toes, because I think the cast appreciate that too. And if I'm there, they're on their toes and everything goes okay. If I'm not there, it sometimes slips a little bit. So I just make sure I'm there all of the time, so I can make sure I give them notes and do that.
You're like the school teacher in the
well, I don't know about a school teacher, but yes, I
getting the best out of everybody, and they appreciate that you're.
I think so.
There.
I also think that when you're a director, you have to analyse the people you're working with. It's not just a question of, oh, here's my cast, right, here are the lines, here's the script, let's get on with it. It's, do I know that person? Do I know that cast member? Am I going to treat them like the next cast member? No, I'm not. Because one cast member may have be very nervous on the first day of rehearsals, because they're out there, they're out in front of hundreds of people being the actor, and another cast member has all the confidence in the world. So once my cast come in on the first day of rehearsals, we may sit down and do a read-through. I'm actually not interested in the read-through because I've already auditioned them. I'm interested in how everybody's reacting against each other, and I'm really aware of that. Even when we do a run, and I think all producers and all directors need to always be aware of the cast they're working with, because you have a happy cast, you have a happy show. And so that to me is most important. And if I criticise people, as we say, you know, I said earlier, criticism isn't a put down. Criticism is saying, come on, we can do better, you're great, now let's push you a little bit further. And if you have the right attitude to your actors and your technical team and everybody, down to the wardrobe, you will get the right response. And I believe in that. If I've got stress, don't give it to your cast. Keep that stress, keep it to you, whoever you can talk to about it, and then let the cast be happy. And I check that every single day. Because if you're in a car, not in a car accident, but if you're driving along and you can't get through the traffic, you're irritable, and you go in and say somebody drops a line, and I go, excuse me, you just did that, and now it's not them I'm really mad at. I'm just angry because of the bloody
You brought the vibe with you from outside.
So I constantly do that, and I think any producer, any director, if you are running a company that is your company or you're starting up, you have to think about the people you're working with, because from the bottom of the ladder to the top of the ladder, they're equally important, and you treat them equally, but in different ways. But you respect every single person. And if I don't get respect, that is for me, am I doing my job right? No, probably not, because they're not respecting me. So somewhere along the line, I've gone wrong. So I think that's really important.
It's very much a mentoring relationship almost.
It is.
Yes,
it is. I know years and years ago, I was doing in a film called To Sew With Love with Sidney Poitier.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and
classic.
a bit of a classic, yes. And he was my mentor. Even that long ago when I was a teenager, I used to watch him. I used to watch his approach to the students, to the pupils, the actors, me, that knew nothing. It was my first job. And I learned from him. I said to you, I learn all the time. And I learned from him to respect everybody, from the child to the adult to the older person, everybody. Even the cleaning lady, cleaning the floors, respect them, because you'll get what you want out of them. And if I say to a cast, do you mind working an extra half an hour? You don't have to, but I really get it right. The right attitude, they'll say yes. If you go and say, I need you for half an hour, can you stay on stage? Wrong attitude, they'll probably say no. So you have you have to do all of those things. It's a tremendous weight on your shoulders, but it's the most brilliant weight to carry.
Sounds amazing. Just moving on to music now, how important do you think the Idol franchise has been? Because over the last decade or so, 15 years, we've seen a huge growth in the music business, and it's been challenging times because you've had iTunes and Spotify and a whole disruption of the sector. But the whole Idol franchise seems to have started a real regeneration and a resurgence.
I think with something like American Idol, and we brought it over to America actually in the first place, I think it's done a huge amount of good for the singers, for the writers, for everything really. It's just been incredible. You've got so many now young people that have become stars, maybe for a moment, maybe for a long time. But yes, I think it's been a good because it's given other people work, other people, other employment going on. So yeah, I think it's a really good thing, if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about the fact that it's disrupted and in a positive way and innovated the music business, which was in some ways, you know, getting a little in a very challenging period, particularly because of technology.
Yes, yeah, I think you're right. And I think in the same way, So You Think You Could Dance has done the same thing.
Yes.
Because when you're in something like So You Think You Can Dance or American Idol, Australian Idol or UK, you're bringing in dancers, but that's music as well. So you want fantastic music for the dancers. So you're just really searching, getting new music in. And I think it's incredibly important. I think not me, but those kind of shows have done a huge amount of good for the industry, and rightly so, really.
And entertainment in general, theatre or concerts, it's been around for thousands of years. It's probably been around since mankind has been around, and it really hasn't changed format. We're still going to shows. We might be downloading music, but we're still going to concerts. We're still going to theatre. Theatre's been the same forever.
Yeah.
What do you think it is that makes people want to, in spite of technology, and we still consume things online and listen to things online and stream stuff, but what is it that makes people want to go and be in an environment with other people and experience something live?
I think that even when you have something like American Idol that's on TV, you're still in your own lounge, you're still watching TV. But I think people like to go out. I know in London, you go out to the theatre. There's something magical about going out and having an early dinner or something. You're going to see the theatre, and just the hustle and bustle of the people there talking about the show. I find it really exciting, and I think a lot of people do too. And just meeting people. You know, when you go and see the theatre, funnily enough, I happened to say to a girl there when I was there the other day, "You've got a lovely ring or something," and then she started talking to me, and we started talking about theatre. You get to know people, and there's just something very special that you'll never get at home. If you can watch TV, you're with your family or with friends, but you go to the theatre, you get the lights, you get the music, you get the sound, you get the costumes, and you get the people. I think it's wonderful. Sometimes you go up to the National Theatre on South Bank in London, and you go in there, and it's just the most wonderful feeling of being with other people, with mixing, and all different cultures as well. Everybody wants to go to the theatre.
So it's connecting people.
Yeah, I think it does
shared
connect.
Experience.
Yes, and from all walks of life as well. It's not just, you know, you can go to the opera and you can see people that go to the opera, and you can see people that go to a play or Panto or a musical or just a concert. But we're all together at some point. We're all cheering together. We're all giving the same response. We're clapping. We're waiting for the finale when everybody comes out and bows, and we want to clap them. And I think people become one when they go to the theatre. We become our audience. We're all together as one. In a way, like watching Wimbledon, we become one. We go to Wimbledon. What's so exciting about going to Wimbledon? Why don't we watch that on TV? Because we get the atmosphere, we get the love of being there, and the strawberries and cream, of course, and just mixing with everybody. I think it's there's nothing quite like it. And one other thing, I still think people, although casual, still make an effort to dress to the theatre, even though it's not perhaps as it used to be. People usually look really nice.
You don't wear your dinner suit anymore, but you still...
You don't wear a suit anymore. No, you don't. But you still, certainly on the female side, we still make an effort to go there and see the show. We want to go there and look presentable, I suppose. And there are so many different people. I like going to the theatre, just watching the people,
yes,
and seeing them coming in, and different times when they laugh, and I think, I wonder why they laughed at that bit, because I didn't find that funny, but I might laugh at another bit. So, you know what, I don't think there's anything like it. I wish I could explain that chill down your spine when you go there. You just see people coming on stage. And I think we all appreciate the hard work of the actors as well. I think that's important too. So, yeah.
And what shows are you working on at the moment? Because you've got things going on in three different countries right now.
We've definitely got Sleeping Beauty on here in Australia. And I mean, I'm talking about theatre. And then I'm going back to LA because we start casting. I'm doing The Wizard of Oz in LA this year. And I'm also doing Aladdin. I'm going to oversee that in North Carolina. But another show that I've been doing now it's been going on for about 18 months as a producer, not as a director, but they brought me, headhunted to bring me in, is there was a film called Beaches in the 80s.
Yes,
and I'm
film.
Yeah, great film, but they're going to do that as a musical. So that's going to probably happen next year, maybe the year after, but they're rewriting some of the music, using some of the music. So in fact, they're waiting for me to call in the next day or two because we've been working on it and working on it. I've got a great musical director, a nice American director, and I'll be one of the executive producers on that show as well. So I said to them, funny enough, I'm no good at all the contracts and stuff, but I'm very good at the creative side of things. So in this case, you know, when we were talking about the differences of producers, in this case I would definitely be involved in the choosing of the cast and going to all the auditions and the castings. So then we can talk about it all and see who we like and who we don't like. Now I'm involved in the reading of the scripts and everything like that. So I am involved in a big way, but not actually as a director's way. And it's going to be tough for me because the director will have their ideas about how they want to do the show. But because I'm a director as well, I have to have that moment when I think, pull back, give them a chance, they're directing. You are the producer, not the director. So I will be playing a different role, but I'll enjoy doing that different role as well, I expect.
I can't wait for that one.
Yes.
It's going to be a fantastic show.
I think it will be. I've read the script now, a few times, and it's really lovely. It's delightful, it's lovely. So, and that's taken up quite a lot of time, to be honest with you, but that with everything else, it's...
So how do you manage your time? Because in amongst that, you still have a house in England and you're still spending some part of the year there. How do you manage your productivity with all these different shows, different on-sale dates and tickets and opening nights? And do you have a method for managing your productivity, or is it just get through it?
I kind of got the right people behind me. That's another thing you should always remember. You choose your people carefully. If you're going to open up a new production, then make sure you have the right people. But I find the time, because I make the time. Everybody knows that come middle of August till middle of September, unless it's something absolutely fantastic that I couldn't possibly not be involved in. And I mean, that could happen with Beaches. They may suddenly say, not this year, we'll be casting at the beginning of August, so then I'd have to be there. But generally, I'll say summer in Europe, I'm taking a month out, and I usually do take a month out. I might do a little bit of emails, might do a little bit of script reading, but nothing that actually taxes my brain, because it is exhausting and it is taxing, let alone doing TV work as well, which I do. You know, I do host on productions as well, on shows, reality shows, which is tough at times. But I just think, you know, I play tennis and I love playing tennis, and I find the time. You have to find that time, because otherwise you're going to burn yourself out, and you will burn yourself out because there's so many different directions that you're going in. So you have to just say, that's it. I find family time, you know, I make time. Both my sons live in Los Angeles, so I find time to be with them and spend time. And I spend time, I've got grandchildren, so I spend time with the grandchildren as well. But I have to work out. You see my diary, I say, right, that day I'm having off, that day I'm having off, that I'm not going to do anything.
So you work out it actively setting those. It's interesting the methods that people use.
I work out the whole of this year. I know exactly what I'm doing right the way through, actually into next year, and I will be going to the tennis here next year in January. So yeah, I work out the whole year and find 4 or 5 days, or make time. You have to make time for your family. You have to make time for your friends, because it sounds like I'm a workaholic. I don't think I am, because I find that moment when I can switch off and say, I'm going out tonight, I'm going to the theatre, I'm going to see a show, or I'm just going to be with friends and I'm going for dinner. And I turn the phone off. I quite often, if I'm going out for dinner, I leave the phone at home, because I don't want to be on the phone. I don't want that situation. So I suppose you have to discipline yourself. And I think because I have ballet in my system from when I was very young, it's a huge discipline, that because of that, I will say to myself, no, you're not going to do that. No, you are going to take a month off. You are going to take a break. So I think that's instilled in me, and I really like that part of me. I don't want to be talking about what show is good or what show is bad if I'm out with my friends who want to talk about tennis or something else.
Probably, apart from having an enjoyable, balanced life, it probably helps you build a better business because you have that time to step back and then come back to it.
Well, don't you find sometimes your brain is just too, it has become too much. I can't think of the right word. It's too full of information. Yes, thank you. You do get overwhelmed with your brain, and I think sometimes that happens to me. I know when I've got nothing left there that I might go and do an auto cue or go on or do something, and I think, oh, my brain's not clear on that, and that's because I'm on overload. That's what I was trying to say. And when you're on overload, I know I need to stop, and I know now that I'm coming to the end of Sleeping Beauty. We've got another 2 or 3 weeks left, which is now in a good state for me because it's up and running. So I just have to go in there, check everything's okay, and then I know it's all fine. And I now know it's time to slow down and just take a step back and then enjoy it. Just enjoy life, because life's so worthwhile living and so worthwhile enjoying. But if you work non-stop 24 hours, when you're, I mean, I kind of guess when you're in a production, you're flat out and you work, but just at that moment when you can switch off.
There's a time and a place for it, and then there's a time and a place to switch off. There is.
And you have to do that. You really do have to do that. Otherwise, you're no good for anybody, really.
And probably as a creative as well, because do you have a creative process? I mean, is there a way that because you're actually working on the creative side, as we've discussed, of being a producer and as a director. How do you tap into that in terms of when you really need to think about how this is going to be staged, or how you're going to, design a marketing plan or something creative? Do you play tennis? Do you have a shower? Like different people draw down or download in different ways.
Yes, I have little areas that I go to. My brother lives in Portugal, and I go over there quite a lot, and I've got a little place near him in Portugal, and I find that I suddenly go into that space of so take a song. We were talking about music earlier, and because I was a choreographer, I listen to music and I'm creating all the time. So sometimes I will look at scripts and just sit in a room and just see it in my head. I always have a vision, and my mum always used to say to me when I was smaller that I was always good at composition, I was always good at story writing, and she said it's because I had this imagination, and I could go off in a room when I was a child and just sit and play with nothing really, but I was already on the moon, and I was then going to the sun, and I always had this imagination. And I can take a script, that we were talking about beaches earlier, and as I'm going through it, I can see it, and I see it in colour, and I think, oh, that would look good in the purples and the yellows or whatever it is. But I take that time. It's usually with tennis, I have to switch off because I have to concentrate on the game, because I love it so much, and I play with some interesting celebrities that like tennis, so I have to be on. Yeah, I don't want to lose. I usually do, but I like to play. But it is a quiet room. It could be in a park somewhere, and I'll just sit down and I'll see the birds out there, and I just see the sky and the clouds, and suddenly my brain is in gear, and I'm just thinking, that would be a really nice scene if I brought that colour into that scene. So everything's in my head, but somehow I'm able to put it into little boxes and then just bring it out when I need to. I do have to sometimes concentrate. Sometimes I can't deal. If I do have to do something under pressure, then I think, oh, I need to go and think about this. I need to just take space and just listen and work it through. But
it's hard to be creative under pressure. It's a different mindset to normal business, isn't it?
Yes, and sometimes it is under pressure. Sometimes I can't sometimes get a scene right, and I'm not quite sure, because when you're making a scene in a play or in a musical, you've got to manoeuvre maybe 15, 16 people on stage, and you're thinking, why isn't that working? What am I doing wrong? And then the pressure's building, because I'm thinking, I've got to finish that scene today because I've got to move on the next day to another scene. And so if that happens to me, I'll just probably break the cast for tea, so take 15, and I'll just walk out, even if it's in the corridor, just somewhere out, and I'll just sit there and think, what am I doing? I know what I'm doing. I should go there. That person should do that. And then, as long as you take the time to actually say, pull yourself back a minute, think about what you've just done. You know why it's not quite right, but you need to go away from it. Because when they're all staring at you on stage waiting, I think, oh my goodness, and you get like a blocked brain. You can't actually work it through. So you just need to just go away for a second.
Because you need a bit of space to be creative and to let the sort of inspiration flow.
Yeah, you do. It's quite amazing. And sometimes
it's important for people to be able to know, I think, how not everybody's naturally gifted creatively, but everybody has that ability within them. And I think it's important to hear what you're saying for people to understand how they can try and get that creativity and then apply it to their business, particularly if it's a creative business.
Yeah, I think so. I think that, I tell you, sometimes when you're being creative, because I just look in the theatre, I go into my own world. And one of the things that I find that it could be a stumbling block sometimes, and they're only being helpful, is I think, oh, how am I going to say that line? How would I say that line? And then an actor will kind of hear that and say, what if I do so-and-so? And I go, whoa, please don't. Please don't do that to me, because I need to work it through. Once I know, then I'll ask you and see if we come together. That's what I was saying to you earlier. You have to work with whoever you're working with. It's not, you're not on your own. If you're creating, you are making something of a show or a production or your company. You cannot do it just you on your own. It has to be with everybody, and they have to understand you. And I'll quite often say that. I'll often say to whoever I might be working with, okay, I don't know how this scene is going to go. I'm going to work it through. Just let me do it. I'm in rehearsal as well as you. Let me run it, let me do it. And then once I know where I might not like it, I'll try and put it right, and then I'll get your input. You have to control that situation, and then you open it out to others. And as I said to you before, never be afraid to make a mistake, because it's good to have input from other people. Never feel that you're the only person that knows everything. You actually don't. You need to know what other people think as well, but on your terms. So you need to be the creative and then take the feedback.
So you're setting the vision, you're setting the agenda, and then you're taking feedback around it, and then bearing ultimate responsibility.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how it works, yeah.
And finally, the entertainment business. It's a notoriously difficult business for people to get into at any level, be it as a performer or as a producer. How do you be a producer? So what kind of advice would you give to people, particularly firstly on the producer side or on the business side, about how to get into it, or just general advice? And secondly, on the performance side, thousands and thousands of performers out there, 98% unemployment, but yet we love them all and we need them for our craft and for our enjoyment.
I think first of all, when you're becoming a producer, you need to know, you really need to really review everything, look at things. Be sure of what you're doing. If you want to do it, try and learn from other people. Maybe go in as an assistant to a producer. Be an observer before you actually become a producer, because you need to get your facts right. And nobody likes uncertainty in our world. You've got to be the strength. So the minute you hesitate, then you're on a wobbly. Then the people think, oh, she doesn't really know what she's talking about, or he doesn't know what they're talking about. I used to, I mean, it was easier for me because we used to have repertory companies in UK, so I used to do a lot of rep, so you learn a great deal. And I never stop people. If somebody says to me, Bonnie, would you mind if I come in and observe? I want to be a director, I would like to be a producer. Could I come in and learn? And I will always, unless it's a complicated situation where the actors and I are just working together, I will always say, please come in and learn. And I think once you've learned about all you can about being a producer, about how to do contracts, you have to have answers for everything, I think. You've got to know how to be to do contracts and do the finance and the payroll and all of those kind of things, and put the right people in place. Once you know that, then I think you can go ahead and work for somebody else. You can't just suddenly open up your own company. Work for other people, really gain the knowledge, so that when you really feel that I've got it all, then you can say, right, now I want to be a producer, maybe I want to own my own company. I'm good at that particular thing, and then go for it. I mean, what's that? Is it Shark Tank? I mean, I love Shark Tank, because I think it gives so much advice to people. The people that come in and they're trying to sell their creativity, and sometimes they come in and I think, oh, they're not selling it right.
Yes.
They need to sell that right. They need to have belief in themselves. And then when the judges are talking to them, you can see them folding, can't you?
Yes.
You think, oh no, I've got that wrong.
Yes.
Be positive as a producer. Make sure that whatever it is you're going into, you know what you're talking about. I think that's that, because people don't like insecurity, and that's
Yes.
one of the main things I think as a producer. You just have to know it. You know, I'm nervous about beaches. It's not being a producer isn't my main thing. I love directing, so I'm nervous that I might overstep the mark, not have enough knowledge. So before we actually start that, I'll be backtracking and thinking, right, what have I learned from other people? Now, even now, I'm doing that. So that's what I would say about producers. And in the acting world and with the casting, with those kind of people, they'll never give in. When you believe in your heart that this is the only career, this is the only love that I ever want, whatever down you might have, you'll just get up, dust yourself off and start all over again. And I always say to even young people when we're auditioning them, you may not get it today, but you may get that job tomorrow. And it's not just about, oh, I'm useless. You've got to believe in yourself, because it's not a question of being, I'm useless, I'm no good. It's how can I get better? What is it they're looking for? Are they looking for my kind of person? What am I doing wrong? And if I'm casting, I'll always give advice. Unlike a lot of directors who would say, song, this is what you're reading, I'd like the character to be like this. I will say at the end, would you like me to tell you something? And usually they say yes, they'd love that. And I will tell them about where I think they've gone wrong. They may have picked a wrong choice of song. Acting may not have been right for the role they were playing. And even the way they may dress is sometimes so wrong. And you say, no, not like that. You should be dressed like this for this particular role. But actors, I don't know, they have this resilience. They just do. They'll just come back and go again, because it's their love and their life, and they'll have tears. I had tears this season with the young juveniles at audition. They ran away crying. They couldn't do it, and I said, "You can come back, audition for me again." American Idol, we had 10,000 the first year. 10,000 people queuing up, and some of them get it, and some of them don't. But never give up. Never give up on a good thing.
So they've almost got to see themselves as a brand.
Oh, definitely.
As well as
yes.
their craft.
Yes.
They're a brand, and they're creating and
yes.
and kind of marketing their own brand.
Yes, definitely. That's right. It is.
But it's a noble profession, isn't it? A lot of people don't really appreciate it, but it's something that we all we watch these people every day.
Yeah, you watch these people every single day, and every single day. I've said to many people, do you think I got my first job? Of course I didn't get my first job. I probably went for about 20 jobs before I got my first job. Apart from To Serve With Love, I did get that first time. but you can't guarantee that. You just
started on a strong wicket, to use a cricket analogy.
And then went downhill.
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so really. But I just want to say to everybody, it's worth the heartache. Whatever you want to do in your life, if you want to be a producer, a director, in my world of the creativity, or an actor, if you believe in yourself and you have that strength to put up with the yeses and the nos, then go for it. Be determined, be dignified, have respect, and know your job. And I think that's what it's all about.
Fantastic advice. Bonnie Lythgoe, thank you for being on The Business of Creativity.
Thank you, Michael, for having me.